On June 6, 2025, at the end of the Summer Game Fest, Capcom finally broke their silence regarding Resident Evil, more specifically with regards to the future of the series. At long last, we know what's next for the franchise, and what's next is none other than Resident Evil 9, the highly anticipated and massively speculated on next entry in the mainline saga. Its official name was revealed to be Resident Evil Requiem, and it is set to be released on February 27, 2026, so less than a year from now. We also got a trailer for it, and boy oh boy, what a trailer it was. Haunting, atmospheric, and dripping with mystery. It instantly sets the tone for what might be the most ambitious and terrifying Resident Evil yet. From its cryptic narration to the chilling new setting and its vulnerable new protagonist, Resident Evil Requiem looks poised to take the franchise in a bold, possibly darker direction that follows the return to roots approach set by Resident Evil 7 and the Village. It's a game that raises just as many questions as it answers, but it's those questions that make this such an exciting time to be a Resident Evil fan. So let's dive in, starting with our new lead. Our main and so far only confirmed playable character is Grace Ashcroft. A new face, but not a new name. Well, last name. She's the daughter of investigative journalist Alyssa Ashcroft, one of the original playable characters from the Resident Evil Outbreak series. Now that's a deep cut. Grace is a technical analyst working for the FBI. She's described as a bookworm, an awkward and introverted woman, intelligent but vulnerable. We get a strong sense of that in the trailer, which shows her surrounded by open files and notes, huddled in a dimly lit workspace, typing away on her computer with the glow of the screen reflecting in her glasses. Her posture, curled up with one leg on the chair, her whole energy is that of someone more at home behind a screen than in the field. In short, she's not your typical Resident Evil protagonist. She's not Leon, Jill, or Chris, trained and ready to take on monsters with military precision. She's more akin to Ethan Winters in RE7, someone in over their head, or like Claire in RE2, someone with some combat training who is not a fighter but ends up becoming one in order to survive. This approach makes Grace an interesting and compelling character, and it also signals that Requiem will definitely lean more towards horror than action. Just like RE7 used Ethan's lack of training to create vulnerability, Requiem will do the same with Grace. She isn't walking into this with technical know-how or combat experience. She's driven by grief, by duty, by something deeply personal. She's not a fighter, she's a seeker. We all know how terrifying the first hour or so of RE7 is, since running and hiding is all we can do to survive. And based on early impressions from those that got hands-on time with Requiem's demo, the feeling of being vulnerable and defenseless is very real. Grace is very clearly unnerved and terrified by the horrors she encounters, having to resort to deep breaths and mumbling to herself to remain calm. She is also supposedly armed with only a lighter, likely only useful to deal with really dark areas and to interact with the environment, like say light a fireplace, and the throwable bottles which presumably can only stagger enemies or distract them. So no guns. Though it's clear she will get access to them eventually like Ethan, and of course, as a member of the FBI, she does know how to handle a gun unlike him initially. It's just not her strong suit. This emphasis on fight or flight with a protagonist that is not adept in combat gives me Silent Hill vibes, which is wonderful. But let's be honest, many fans, including myself, were hoping that RE9 would mark the grand return of one of the icons of the series, namely Leon or Jill. After all, they've been absent from the mainline entries since RE6 and RE5 respectively. More than a decade ago if we don't count the animated films Vendetta and Death Island. After 2 full games with Ethan, many felt it was time for a veteran to take the lead again. But here's the thing, I wouldn't lose hope just yet. Grace's lack of combat experience might be more than a narrative quirk. It could be a setup. We've seen Capcom pull mid-game protagonist swaps before, Mia during RE7 and Chris during the final stretch of Village. There's a real possibility that Grace might require help down the line, and who better to show up than someone like Leon or Jill, especially considering where the story will take us in this game. A place that holds a lot of significance to both Leon and Jill. It would be emotionally and narratively satisfying, almost poetic, for them to return to where it all began. But more on this later. Now, Grace's role in Requiem isn't just defined by who she is, but also by who her mother was. Alyssa Ashcroft might not be a household name to all Resident Evil fans, but for those who remember Resident Evil Outbreak and its sequel, she's an important part of the extended universe of the series. A tenacious investigative reporter for the Raccoon Press, Alyssa was one of the few survivors of the Raccoon City incident in 1998. She was strong-willed, outspoken, and determined to uncover the truth, often putting herself in danger to do so. And she didn't stop there. Years later, Alyssa continued her investigative work, even writing for a paper called the Dobie Daily, a local outlet based in the same town where the events of Resident Evil 7 unfolded. Coincidence? Maybe, or maybe not. The fact that she was alive and active in 2016, the year she penned that article, suggests she might have still been sniffing around biohazard activity long after Raccoon City fell. But as of Resident Evil Requiem, she's been dead for 8 years, as revealed by Grace's superior at the FBI, Nathan Dempsey, who also reveals that Alyssa's death was not natural. She was murdered while investigating the Renwood Hotel, a location that presumably serves as the initial setting of the game, and is described as a shady urban establishment somewhere in the US known to be linked to criminal activity. It was here that Alyssa met her end, and now Grace is sent to investigate a new string of mysterious deaths tied to the same location and blamed, according to a report Grace is seen writing, on some sort of disease, which in the Resident Evil universe can only mean a virus that turns people into monsters. The trailer reveals a lot without saying much. We see glimpses of Alyssa in what can only be flashbacks, snooping around in dimly lit corridors, wearing her signature red. There are eerie figures, flickering lights, and the strong implication that she uncovered something far bigger than she ever anticipated. Whether she got too close to a biohazard operation, or stumbled upon something more sinister, something she was never meant to see, it's clear that whatever killed her is still out there and may now be targeting her daughter. In fact, it's very suspicious that this Nathan guy decides to send an analyst with little to no combat experience to a place linked to a series of murders. I get it's related to her mother, but come on. This smells like a trap. He is likely in cahoots with whoever the villain is, and he was told to send her so that they, whoever they are, can get to her. We've all seen this scenario before, right? Now, these flashbacks of Alyssa's final moments appear as disturbing visions Grace sees as soon as her mother's murder is brought up. These visions of twisted corridors, hooded figures, and an atmosphere thick with dread make it all too probable that we will get to play as Alyssa during these flashback sequences, allowing us to relive her final investigation at Renwood Hotel before everything fell apart. An investigation that has to be connected to the crisis her daughter will now face. Even more intriguing, however, is the implication that Grace's investigation at the Redwood Hotel is what will lead her to none other than Raccoon City. A place long thought destroyed and forgotten, whose name is instantly recognizable to any fan of the series. There's something poetic, haunting even, about Resident Evil returning to Raccoon City. While Resident Evil 1 and 0 technically take place in the Arklay Mountains on the outskirts of the city, Raccoon City has always been the symbolic heart of the franchise. It's the place where the nightmare went public, where everything spiraled beyond containment, and where Umbrella's legacy of horror reached its devastating peak. It's where Jill became a legend, where Leon and Claire entered the world of survival horror, where chaos reigned, and where it all supposedly ended in fire. But now, in Resident Evil Requiem, we're going back. Not to the city as we remember it, but to what's left of it. A ruined, quarantined shell of its former self. The trailer gives us a glimpse of this decimated landscape. Shattered buildings, streets torn apart, boundless desolation, ashen gray as far as the eye can see, and a massive crater that visibly marks the site of the nuclear strike that wiped Raccoon City off the map back in 1998. Yet, despite the destruction, we see recognizable landmarks, most notably the Raccoon City Police Department. Though broken and in ruins, its shape is still familiar. The decision to spotlight this specific location in the trailer feels deliberate. It's a visual reminder of how much has changed and how much is still buried under the rubble. So, why go back now? The timing is suspicious. In 2026, the Resident Evil franchise turns 30. A return to Raccoon City could be a calculated celebration of the legacy of the series. A way to bring things full circle while introducing something new. It's nostalgia, yes, but it's also a statement. Raccoon City isn't just a place. It's the beginning, the trauma, the wound that never really closed. And the presence of Grace Ashcroft here ties it all together. Her mother, a survivor of the original Outbreak, met her and seemingly investigating another bioterror cover-up. Now, her daughter follows the same trail, unknowingly retracing her mother's steps straight back into the belly of the beast. Returning to Raccoon City, though, is not the only way in which Requiem is going back to basics. The trailer shows a terrified man warning someone to stay away because he knows exactly what's about to happen. He's been apparently bitten, or at least infected, right? This one moment, brief as it is, screams Resident Evil in the purest sense. Then, near the end of the trailer, we get a quick shot of what appears to be a police officer losing his humanity. And then, right as the game's title is revealed, we all know what these are, right? It's unmistakable. These are zombies. Not molded, not lichens, but zombies. We haven't seen traditional zombies take center stage in a mainline game since RE6. Their absence has been felt, especially among longtime fans. While the newer monsters have certainly been creative, Village's werewolves, Seven's molded, etc., there's something iconic and irreplaceable about the classic zombie, which we have dealt with in some of the modern remakes. Their slow, looming threat, their grotesque design, their thematic link to the very core of what Resident Evil is. If Capcom is bringing them back, that's not just nostalgia, it's symbolic. It's the franchise embracing its roots right down to its monsters. Though to be fair, the one that shows up when the title is revealed might not be a zombie. It seems a bit bigger and monstrous. Plus, you can hear chains in the background, suggesting that whatever it is, it's so ferocious, it must be held securely. There are still more mysterious and possibly more disturbing creatures and entities in store for us, and this thing might just be one of them. In the trailer, there's a brief but chilling scene featuring a man sitting beside an old gramophone. He speaks calmly, almost reverently, calling Grace, or rather Ashcroft, The chosen one, the one he's been searching for. Who is this man? Is he part of a cult? A remnant of some twisted experiment? A new kind of antagonist we haven't seen before? His demeanor is ritualistic, devoted. It immediately brings to mind Resident Evil 4's Los Iluminados or Village's Four Lords and Mother Miranda. It's very possible we're dealing with another group obsessed with a special individual or bloodline. The way he fixates on Ashcraft rather than Grace specifically suggests this goes back generations. Considering Alyssa died investigating something at the Renwood Hotel, it's fair to say this something is likely connected to this man and his group, who might be the reason Nathan chooses to send Grace to investigate. It's possible that Grace's bloodline is tied to some biological potential, something unique, something dangerous. Could this be another Rose Winter situation? Maybe Grace, like Rose, carries a latent ability. Or perhaps she's genetically suited to survive or control a new strain of virus. Either way, this man believes she's special, and that's rarely a good thing in Resident Evil. This explains why the trailer shows her suddenly waking up, tied to a table, upside down, while clearly having no idea what's going on and where she's at. Though according to people who played the demo, she wakes up in an abandoned hospital. Which is great, right? Nothing ever goes wrong in abandoned hospitals. Also, the fact she wakes up someplace that is not Renwood Hotel and she's restrained too suggests that, yeah, her investigation of the place won't end well for her, and sending her there was likely indeed a trap. She will presumably be knocked out and kidnapped. In fact, the trailer shows a man going through this very thing. Also, she's clearly wounded, as evidenced by the bloody bandage. Was she just injured? Was she injected with something? Was she experimented on? Was something removed from her? Obviously, we have no way of knowing just yet, but it's an interesting question. One of the final and most unsettling moments of the trailer is a quick shot of a grotesque creature crawling down a wall in the shadows. Its movements are slow, creepy, unsettling, and very reminiscent of classic Stalker enemies. Resident Evil has always excelled at these unrelenting pursuers. Mr. X, Nemesis, the Regenerators, the Verdugo, and more recently, the likes of Jack Baker and Lady Dimitrescu. These enemies defined the tone of their games. They were the source of tension, of dread, of feeling constantly haunted. If this creature is indeed the new Stalker enemy, then Requiem seems to be going all in on fear and psychological pressure. This monster, combined with Grace's apparent vulnerability, at least early in the game, paints a clear picture. This game wants you to feel small. It wants you to feel unsafe. It wants to get under your skin. This is survival horror in its purest form, and the Stalker is the cherry on top. Also, I think this might be the creature that appears at the end of the trailer. Now let's talk about the title, Resident Evil Requiem. Like Village before it, Requiem cleverly hides the number 9 in plain sight with its lowercase q. However, it goes beyond, since the RE before the Q straight up spells RE9. Really slick, Capcom, I love it. But it's more than just a stylistic choice. The word Requiem refers to a mass for the dead, a solemn tribute to the fallen, and even a lament. It's a powerful word, and in the context of this series, it could mean several things. It could be a requiem for Raccoon City, a final return to where everything began, a way of bringing closure to the horrors that originated there. It could be a requiem for the Ashcraft bloodline, with Grace uncovering the painful truth behind her mother's death and carrying that burden forward. Or in a broader sense, it could even be a requiem for Resident Evil as we've known it, a goodbye to the old world and a symbolic transition into something new. Whatever the case may be, Capcom chose this title with care, and the tone of the trailer supports that. It's slow, brooding, soaked in grief, uncertainty, and the fear of what's to come. Finally, as confirmed by those that played the demo, Requiem will be playable in both third person and first person, with the ability to freely change perspectives from the pause menu. This is a fantastic move that not only enhances player freedom and immersion, but also adds significant replay value by letting us experience the game in two distinct ways that fundamentally shift the tone and the feel. Many of us, myself included, have been wondering for a while if RE9 would be in third person or first person. So it's great that we have an answer at last, and better yet, it's an answer that satisfies everyone, regardless of which perspective you prefer. All in all, Resident Evil Requiem looks like it's not only continuing the franchise's shift back to survival horror, it's embracing it fully, with a new protagonist tied to a forgotten but beloved legacy character and defined by vulnerability that might leave her and us defenseless in the face of terror, the reintroduction of both a classic setting and a familiar kind of foe, the shadow of something terrifying stalking us in the dark, and a plot rooted in personal tragedy and conspiracy, RE9 is shaping up to be both a tribute to the past and a bold step forward. There's still so much we don't know, but one thing is certain: Capcom is taking this seriously. This isn't just the next Resident Evil. It might be the definitive Resident Evil for the modern era. A return to roots, a reckoning, a new nightmare that I cannot wait to dive into and be absolutely terrified by. Please do let me know what you think in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, theories, and speculations. Plus, I want to know if you will be playing Requiem in first person or in third person. If you enjoyed this video, please do consider dropping a like and subscribing. I would very much appreciate it. Also, please do check out one of the videos on screen as well. Thank you so very much for watching, and let's meet again in the next video.